Welcome back to another episode of Thinking with Mike, and today we're going to talk with Ken Reif. And today we're going to talk about how to survive, and not only survive, but how to thrive in today's market. Like, what are people doing out there that are in the position of buying and selling being a good idea for them, and how are we maximizing that? That's really the answer today.
Yeah.
We're not going to say whether or not you should or shouldn't move. That's up to you, right? But if you are in the market and a move is on the horizon, what can we do to maximize that? That's what we're talking about.
I just want to preface that, like, when you said you came into the podcast studio and you're like, we're like, what are we talking about today? And you're like, we're going to talk about surviving. And I'm just like, awesome. I've been watching the series Alone. By the way, sorry, quick off topic. If you haven't watched the show Alone, watch it.
You're missing
so good.
Huh? You'd be significantly
it's so good, right?
To the rest of the world who has watched it.
I now know how to make a fire with a stick.
I actually hold, the brand Patagonia.
Yeah.
I used to not give a shit. I'm like, what is that even? Now,
and then you've seen it in Patagonia and like, that place is badass.
Now that clothing line is elevated.
Yeah, I want
top tier.
Now I'm willing to spend $5,000 on a pair of gloves.
You said we had to make this quick today.
We did. We do. And I'm sorry. You said survive, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And that's how 90% of these goes, just so everyone knows, as Mike comes in, storms in like Leonardo DiCaprio on The Wolf of Wall Street and goes, survive. And then you've just got to create a 30-minute podcast out of that. So I'm now finding out the topic. It's a good topic, and we should dive into it. So let's dive into it.
So far, what we've learned from what the Fed is laying out for us is that it's becoming widely known that this is going to be temporary, but it's going to really hurt in the interim, right? We are going to see the housing market be tamped down artificially, and we're going to give a lot of the gains that we've had up, but it is temporary, okay? And so interest rates across the board, everybody's saying they're coming down, and so we are starting to dip into the realm of what do we do between now and when they come down again.
Yeah, and again, I battle with this all the time, but the interesting thing about it is that our memories are very short, right?
Yep.
What was off the top of your head, and I don't know the answer to this question, so you'll have to answer it. Off the top of your head, what was the standard time on market for a call it a $350,000 home 5 years ago?
You'd be prepping your clients for 30 to 90 days on market.
30 to 90?
And you'd start thinking about a price reduction after about a month.
About a month. So you'd be on the market for 30 days, no price reductions, generally speaking.
As long as you have a trickle of showings. And by trickle, I mean that was good.
Okay. That was normal. You know, and I've got, we've got clients, and understandably so, because, we've done such a great job of normalizing. Okay, we're on the market on Thursday. 10K above the market average, or market price. And we've gotten 17 showings stacked, sometimes double booked. Yep. That's the norm. That's what I was expecting. When I sold my home less than a year ago, my expectation from you as my agent was, do we have 10 plus showings day one?
Correct.
And are they stacked? Are there any double showings?
Yep.
That was the norm. And we have to rewind the clock. I don't even have to go back 5 years. Rewind the clock back a year and a half to 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yep.
Before all this craziness, that average time on market, when I sold my my second home with your sister, that home sat on the market for 65 days, 70 days, one offer.
Correct.
And it came in fine. It worked out. But it's just the memories that much up. No, we didn't give that much up. And so, I'm constantly interested in seeing it, because we sent out this graphic the other day, and I sent it to the group about is now still a good time to sell? And the bar graph was still so favorable for selling.
Yep.
And for buying in this market. It's that weird equilibrium. We finally reached some market equity where it's still a good time to sell, because you're not going backwards. Most of the time you're not breaking even, and you've got buyers that are out there that can buy a home right now for sub 7%, sub 6.5%. That's still a pretty good market. And knowing that you're not paying overpriced, but to your point, it's not one where it's if you just want to go out and look at homes and make a casual move, maybe not this market, but gosh, it's still a good.
So the takeaways of what you just said there is that, one, we need to readjust our expectations, right? Because back in a year ago when we were selling your house over the weekend, the advice was, hey, peace out for the weekend. because you got to get out of the way. Now it's more of like, be cool and hang in there and be ready for showings because you don't know when they're going to show up, and be ready for this not to sell right away.
Yep.
But be cool. We can't necessarily chase this sucker down with price reductions and force the sale. And I've got sellers trying to do that right now. And I keep saying, just like, listen, you guys, like, you just got to be cool. Like, we can reduce the price all you want if you want to right now.
Right.
But my suggestion is, like, be cool. Like, our buyer will show up.
Yes.
And we're going to keep a ton of that money in your pocket. You just gotta check your emotions right now, because I know it's a lot of work.
That's another thing I want to touch on is, do you feel, another just unprompted question, do you feel that buyer and seller emotional acuity is more important now than it was 7 to 8 months ago? Meaning, do you think it's important as a buyer to consider emotion while you're in it? And what I mean by that is, like, now is a really easy time to be like, list price of 400,000. Let's come in at 325 and see what they say.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of flipped, right?
Yeah.
Sellers didn't have to have an emotional protection safeguard. Like, go have a fun vacation for a week and come back and count your money. But buyers, like, that was the conversation we're having, is like, hang in there. Give me, 5-6 months of your perseverance and willpower, and, like, we will prevail.
And now it's flipped.
It's flipped. Now it's sellers like, give me some time.
Overnight.
Yep.
Overnight. I mean, man, the conversations we were having was all geared around, don't worry, guys, we're going to find the right house.
Correct.
I know you've submitted 55,000 over list, waived inspection, 25-day close, willing to shovel their driveway for the first year at their new house. You know what I mean? Firstborn child. Now it's like, guys, can we please put in a reasonable offer and not offend these sellers?
Yes.
And we're the only offer, by the way. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's a really weird dynamic for sure.
So, but it's been a lot of fun. So sellers, the number one thing is, like, we're resetting expectations, like, calm down, be slow, make sure that your house is staying in a really great condition for a longer period of time. Hang in there with your pricing. Don't give it up too quickly.
Yep.
Because the money's out there. It just, you have to be a little bit patient for it. Okay.
Yep.
That's it. Buyers on the other end, what can we do with buyers? One, it's fun out there with buyers right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of fun. And, so we're putting aggressive offers in. We're putting in offers that start the conversation, hopefully, and if they don't, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, you can still go too low.
Yeah,
you can still go way too low. I mean, and we've seen it. I've seen it. I do think right now we have to maybe use more of the skills. I shouldn't be doing this. He comes in and goes, "Hey, just stay focused." And then he immediately brings the noisiest snack into the podcast room.
I shouldn't be doing that right now.
No, you should do it because it's super on brand for you to do it. Just eat your snack, because I think every video we filmed, you've been eating something at one point or another. So just do it.
Let's not, though. Okay. I'll just do what I can with the coffee here. There's
New
still
year,
a little left.
New year, new you.
Yep. New vibe. So buyers, what we're trying to do is we've come to the understanding that this is a period of time between when they come down. Okay. I think we've established that.
Yep.
Period. That being said, we're still budgeting making sure you can make these payments. Okay. We're not relying on that to happen in the future, but we are kind of in the interim. So what are some things that we're doing right now to bridge the gap? One, we're negotiating, and I would lean towards the side of, I'd like an offer to be too low than too high right now, period.
Okay.
Unless it's the house that you've been waiting for forever. I always have that caveat in there with negotiation.
Can you, that's the question you always ask yourself. Can I replicate this home?
Correct.
And I love that about you, because it's one of those things where you've honestly said, can we replicate this home? Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
And let's just go on to the next one, or let's be weird with it.
Because
right?
you've been in enough homes to know what's a standard or
if you can
more common feature.
Yeah, if you can replicate it, like whatever, like get in there and get like goofy with your terms and try to just get a freaking deal. But if you can't replicate it, and I use lakes, acreage, privacy,
finished quality,
all those types of things. Like if you go into a home and you're like, holy crap, this is a deal. Don't get in the way of a freaking deal. That's one of the biggest things I've ever ran into is don't let your head get in the way of a deal.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a deal is just a deal. That's the way it is.
Yep.
And that may mean paying full price in this marketplace and being happy that, holy crap, those suckers sold it to me for that.
Well, what's hard is there's such a dichotomy right now. There are two different classes of, frankly, of listing agent right now. Okay, there's the experienced, market driven, agent, and then there's the agent that's still pricing from 5 months ago, right?
Yep.
And that's why it's so important. Like as a buyer's agent, we identify which ones are the good deal, but it's hard because you've got someone telling you, yeah, this one's priced right, and then that one's not priced right. Well,
Yep.
they're the same price, right? But one's not priced right. Well, why?
Yep.
You just gotta trust me. I know
what
the
it
market. I know the value. I know this and that. So that's what I think is hard, is that in at least a year and a half or a year ago, everything was priced right because everything was worth a hell of a lot more than even what
Well, the market would
was at.
adjust it.
Yeah. Now it's like you might have 123 Main Street priced perfectly, and then you have 321 Main Street priced stupidly, and you've got to discern not going into 123 Main Street and lowballing, even
Correct.
though you would lowball on 321 because it's not the right price. So you just have to be
Yep.
you have to be pragmatic about that.
Be very
you know?
kind. That's actually how to price things, by the way, like appearing as a value, even
Yep.
though you're the same house. That's a really good example of it right there. One, you're priced right, and you have somebody else kicking the bucket, so you appear as a value, even though you're just what the market is.
Man, I just have you ever seen the sorry, I'm in a very ADHD mentality today. Have you ever seen like a football analyst? I love those when they're like doing the play-by-plays and they're like breaking down plays at a granular level that only you would know if you're in the NFL.
Yes.
Like, yeah, so you see how the safety's sitting here and then the cornerback's sitting here. That means they're playing a this zone. This corner's going to press up, which is going to force the line. And you're like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Learning the inner workings. I think we simplify what we take in. So like with football, I'm like run play, pass play, draw play, fake play. You know what I mean? Like, but there's like 35,000 pieces within that just one play. It's the same with the housing market.
Yeah.
When we're evaluating things and the market's shifting, we have to be very careful about what's going on in the market. And we think about these things at a granular level,
Yep.
especially when we're evaluating homes. And I think the one problem, if you want to call it a problem, is that this market, it's like if the NFL were, that's doing that job, but it's like if the NFL were changing its rules every couple months.
Yeah.
But by the way, you can hold now. Just kidding, you can't hold anymore.
It's no longer 10 yards, it's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get 1 first down.
Yes.
Total.
Like the commissioner
You know,
was the
I ju-
government, and
Yeah.
he just fucking does weird rules all the time.
So I think it's I always think about that. I'm like, man, it's cool to like dive into the head of someone that's truly like experts in that field and like understand what they're seeing from their perspective. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You see those guys with football or sports in general just nerding out on it, and you think that's acceptable. Like that's what we do here.
Yeah.
My biggest like my biggest like difficulty is dumbing the things I say down to people, and sometimes I swing too far where I'll just be like, "You should buy this," and then just like be quiet.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, hold
Do
on
you
a
have any
second here.
data
There's a zillion different thoughts behind it."
No. I'm not gonna take you down that rabbit hole.
You do
but
not wanna go
yes,
there. Just be
it's
like, cool.
smart. Trust me. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yep. Yep. So I've been trying to prompt you at freaking 3-2-2-1 buy downs for about, I don't know, 10 minutes now.
You have.
Here's the like, what are we doing for buyers between now and then? What are some strategies that we can do for buyers besides negotiating? Negotiating is one that's very, very important. Getting a freaking deal, do it.
Yeah. It's like today I've had 3 clients talk to me about buy downs, what they are, how they work, all that stuff. So really what it comes down to at the most basic level, because I could, again, go into an NFL style version of this, but I want to. You said we had 3 hours.
We do. Go ahead. Let her rip.
Don't edit it.
Let's go over here. And
No
turn this
editing. You're going to see it just cut to break, and then I'll come back and be like, and that pretty much wraps it up. Mike's sleeping in the chair next to me. So the buy down is really something that the seller pays for. You can do it in the combination of a seller and like lender credits, buyer. There are some buyer paid options as well, but really at the 500-foot level is you can go into a house and in this market, and when the market changes, it's going to be available, but it's not going to be available, if you know what I mean.
Won't be as beneficial.
And let's say you're putting 10% down. When you increase your down payment on a conventional loan, for example, you can ask for more closing costs from the seller. And what we can do is, let's say a home is listed at $300,000. The market rate today, again, this is just a hypothetical note rate of 6.49% today.
So hypothetically, the rate on your purchase is 6.5%.
Yep. With the buy down subsidy, typically the rate's going to be higher. So that buy down subsidy starting rate would be like 6.625, 6.75. But year one, the seller's paying a lump sum in year one on a 2-1 buy down. Rate is 2% lower on the first year, 1% lower on the second year. Third year, it goes back to the note rate. So that'd be year one on a 6.75 2-1 buy down would be 4.75 year one, 5.75 year two. Then it goes back to 6.75 in year three and beyond. You can refinance that at any time. You get some of that subsidy back prorated based on when you refinance. So it's kind of nice because
You do. I didn't know that.
you do. Yep. So like if you pay $6,000 towards the subsidy and then year two you refinance on month like 13, you should conceivably get, dang close to 50% of that subsidy back, right?
Cool.
So it goes back towards your next transaction. The only thing that we see in that is that, you're going to have to, if you want the subsidy paid for and your closing costs, we're going to the seller and asking for 5% in closing costs.
Which is totally doable nowadays.
It's doable. It can be done. We're probably not going to get it on like.
I actually think that's one of the. I actually think that's one of the best ways to negotiate with people right now is getting massive chunks of seller paid closing costs, because I think cash in your pocket is worth more than a little bit of money off the purchase price. So like investments that we're doing, I'm always like figuring out ways that we can crank up the seller concessions.
Yeah, I am of the school of thought in just about every transaction, and after having done this for close to a decade, I think the seller paid closing costs is awesome. And I think it's awesome that we're getting them again. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I loved the market where we were at, 3.5% interest rates and all that, but like, man, being able to get lump sum $9,000, $10,000, $12,000 from the seller to offset closing fees on top of your down payment, it's so important.
So we can't be too polarized in this where we say interest rates are up, so that's bad, because like it's like an investor's dream. I mean, the number one problem that an investor runs into is the cash that you have in pocket, like cash in the deal. It's the hardest thing to do. That's why the people who are the best at it are best at raising money from other people, right? Because it's a huge. That's what killed all the iBuyers, because like buying a property it's just so cash intensive that it's hard to do a lot of it. So when we add these extra tools in that actually can create extra cash back at closing or less cash in your pocket, it's just a dream scenario for an investor. And that works just as well for a retail consumer, because it takes an awful lot to save up $10,000. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to do that. And when you just chunk it out, or you get to keep that money in your pocket, like that's so beneficial to you guys.
And it like it sets you up to hedge against future markets. So like if you're buying at a 5-6% interest rate now and you get the seller to pay your closing costs, when I call you in 8 months and the rates dropped and say, hey, let's refinance, here's what the fees are going to be to refinance. It's not going to sting twice. It's not like getting kicked in the chin twice. Yep. You know what I mean? You had the seller pay your closing costs on the purchase transaction on the acquisition price. Now, yes, probably going to pay closing costs a little bit on your refinance, but gosh, you're not paying for 2 transactions in 8 months.
Yep.
So like, again, it's one of those things where we're not sitting here saying this is it now.
It's a pretty damn good tool though.
If you don't need to buy, buy if it's the right time for you. There's nothing to be scared of. Is it the most optimal time?
Maybe.
I don't know. Could be.
Yep.
The factors are all there. You're getting homes for a much lower price. The average interest rate is significantly lower than the 17-18% highs that we've seen in the past. Yes, home prices are up, but guess what? That's going to keep going.
Yep.
That ain't going to stop. So, yeah, you just got to take things into consideration, but it all comes down to your budget, what that looks like. And I think that's the survival piece, is like, we're not going to do something that's going to get you into a home that like you have no ability to repay.
I certainly don't want that.
That's just dumb.
Yep. Yeah. The goal is here, if moving or buying and selling is the right thing for you, you might as well utilize all of the tools that are available to you. And like, that's the point of this podcast. Like, hey, what's going on in the marketplace that's helping people bridge the gap right now where it may not be ideal, but you find yourself in the housing market anyways. So like, let's make the best of it.
Yep.
And investors like challenging you, like freaking buy something anyways, because you can make this really, really good. Just be a little bit more conservative.
Correct. And remember, the mortgage note is a tool. Yes. It is not the end of your mortgage financing.
Yes.
It is the tool to acquire. You can change tools.
Yep.
You can switch the hammers out. You can switch to a different screwdriver when the rates come down. Like, it's a tool to get that asset.
Yep.
That asset is that acquisition price is what you got it for, period. And if I had a time machine, the first thing I would do is I would go back in time. The New Brighton home that I owned, it was right next to Irondale High School. There was a train very close to it, but it was a beautiful home. My wife, Casey, will attest. It was an awesome first-time home. I remember when we went to sell that home, 2 years later, that thing sold for $100,000 more than what we bought it for. No square footage added. They painted 2 walls, and they added black cabinets. And I'm like, son of a biscuit.
Yep.
Like, that sucks. So, again, we got to be pragmatic about how we go about it. That's really what it comes down to. But
it's a tool, and it's a tool that's used temporarily. Like, I haven't had any of my properties that I haven't refinanced.
yeah.
So don't fall in love with the first mortgage you put on it.
Yeah, that's true. I think, every single one you've had, you've refinanced. Same with me. Every single mortgage, every single home I've been in, I've refinanced it one time.
Yep.
And
At
I have
least
not
one
stayed
time.
in a home for more than 4 years.
Yeah,
Much to the chagrin of my wife.
Right, first
and
one I
my
did
kids.
2 refinances in 1 year.
Yeah. I didn't love that.
No, it was
I didn't love that.
And
that was
I
my
sold it.
least favorite property for you. But we did it.
yeah.
Okay, really quick before we end the podcast. FTX. What the hell?
Fuck. It's not good. Like, it's actually fascinating.
It's so fascinating. I can't stop. What do you guys think about that? Like, honestly, in the comments, I want to know, like, what do you know about FTX? Did you hear, like, Tom Brady and Giselle are in the lawsuit now because they were, like,
Dude, like, so many influencers, like,
oh, my gosh.
push their user base to them, and we're talking millions of people who lost way too much money in this thing because it's just a straight up fraud. And we're unraveling the onion, and it seems like there's just children on the other end who are just doing drugs and defrauding and just using it. Big old fat Ponzi scheme.
And if any of you guys were in FTX, I'm really sorry, but holy crap, that sucks. I mean, it's the new Theranos of the crypto
Except for
world.
it was retail consumers across the board, and retail consumers who did not heed the lessons. Every single influencer that I talked to, they all said, 1 to 5% of your worth, 1 to 5% of your worth. And I know every other person I know that's in crypto, they're like, fuck it, this is 90%.
Dude,
Like, don't be stupid, you guys.
I was just I was watching a newscast about it, and like, it's, you know what the common theme is in a lot of these, like, the disruptors, right? We were sitting here 2 years ago talking about disruptors in the industry.
Yeah.
Zillow, Open Door. What else was out there?
Open Door,
Realtor.com.
Open Door, by the way, has lost $928 million through
Yep.
quarter 3. That's almost $1 billion.
Yep.
Anyways, continue.
But I'm saying, like, it's kind of funny because, you know what the starting point for a lot of these, like, disruptors are? It's, well, yeah, it's new and it's scary and you might not understand it, but guess what else that sounds like? The internet. And it's like, it's like the one thing people are like, you're right, the internet was so big. It was huge. And it's like,
confusing.
guys, just so you know, the internet was a hit, okay?
yes.
Incontrovertible. But beyond that, there were 35 other ventures that died horrible, horrible deaths because the basic tenets of, like, business weren't followed. The internet, frankly, got lucky because of the crowdsourced, like, creators, independent creators
Yes.
that made it what it is today. And it was going to become a thing, right? Like,
Yep.
that's for sure. What I say, though, is it's because the world needed the internet.
Yes.
The world does not need another banking system right now,
I don't think so.
right?
I don't.
We are moving fiat, we are moving money, we are moving commodity trades in seconds.
Yep.
Why?
I don't think
do
the
we
consumer
need,
cares.
well, we're already using the blockchain. Like, banks use the blockchain to move. When you swipe your debit card, like, that's a blockchain transaction.
And here's what I know
So-
is that when I got defrauded a year ago on my my regular, like, actually Facebook and PayPal did this.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. My bank gave me my money back, and that would not have happened from from the blockchain. The blockchain and been like, oh, toodaloo.
Gone.
But you can go ahead and watch that thief spend your money on the blockchain.
You can see
You can
it. Yeah.
him do it.
So I'm sorry. I just had to go off on that tangent. I think this is fascinating. I'd almost love to do a podcast on this just because it's like, for me, I'm a nerd. You're a nerd. We love looking at this stuff. And like some of our favorite things are like Fire Festival-esque failures.
Yes.
I know it's bad, but that's like the trash TV I watch. I'm a big documentary guy. I think I've watched the Fire Festival documentaries both at least 3 times. And it's incredible what goes through the mind of people that are constantly and consistently riding on the edge of their basis of knowledge.
Yes.
It's kind of like what I did in my first year of lending, except for I didn't have billions of dollars at stake. You know what I mean?
Other people's money.
Of other people's money.
Yep.
You know, so it's amazing to me. So
I think
we got to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, as we're thinking through these things, you have to really like the utility of the thing you're into, like really drill that down and really ask yourself, is this actually serving a purpose? Is this actually decentralized?
Yeah.
Because it's clearly freaking not.
Yeah.
Like, what do we
Right.
have? 5 businesses implode in cryptocurrency and it's destroying 90% of it. Like, is that decentralized to you?
Who knows? In 5 years, it's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah,
FTX is going to
whatever.
get.
Either way, I mean, does it actually provide value? One. And the second piece is like, just don't overexpose yourself, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus frick. I got wrecked in this thing, but I lost, it was between 1% and 3% of my worth. Like, now, given 1% and 3%, like those are numbers that like I don't like to work with, but it's still puny.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would say if you are going to overextend a little bit in your finances, number one, make sure the utilities are housing. Again, I'm not trying to be biased here, but like I can't live in a stock or a bond that lost 50%. I can live in a house that lost 50% and be just fine.
Well, at least there's some sort of like track record with, with stocks and bonds. Like there's hundreds of years of
There
that
is.
surviving.
Yeah,
and
there
thriving.
is. There is. But I still say like the utility of a stock is still a lot less than the utility of a home.
Yep.
Bottom
is.
line.
Yep.
So-
Sure is. It's useless without the other stuff, without the buyer buying it.
Well, Mike's getting wiggly, guys, because he wants to eat his loud cracker snack. So
Yes.
I think we're going to end this.
Thanks. Like, subscribe. And if
Yeah.
you're considering buying a house, in the next 10 or 100 days, like hit us up. I got a link below. Schedule a consultation with me. We can just go through, maybe what your tool bag looks like.
Yep.
If you're thinking about buying or selling.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in.